Hey there, YouTube. PD Twofinger here, griping about the online guitar community again. Tom Cram is on my friends list. He's a Digitech guy. He invented the whammy, worked there forever, until recently. Tom is now starting his own business called Spiral Effects. It was called Rose Effects, and he had the Black Rose, and Eventide sent him a cease and desist because they had a prototype called the Rose. So it's kind of crappy. So go over to Spiral Effects and give Tom some love. He's got a new type of dirt box that uses some kind of nano thing. It's like a transistor, like a chip or a germanium. It's a new type of semiconductor that's nuclear powered or something. And this dirt box gives you all the options to go from classic germanium tone to a transistor type or a chip type sound. And it's just like the coolest fuzz box, dirt box. So it's all different modes. You could get fuzz, overdrive, distortion out of this thing. So yeah, Tom Cram's a cool guy. He invited me to go to this Fuzztopia group, and I went in there. I only last about a couple of weeks at those type of guitar people, where people that play guitar hang out, and I get attacked. I will post something that doesn't go with the line of thinking that the only way to do this is with a tube amp, because that's what people, uninformed people, say that, and they lash out against anything else but what they have. Like, whatever is on their board right now, if you say anything about anything else, they will come in and post, it's garbage, even though they never tried it. A great example is the Wazacraft, the Metal Zone. That was, for a while, it was a big thing to hate on that circuit and talk about how horrible it was. Then they came out with the $400 one instead of the $30 to $50 one that you could buy. Anytime you look on Craigslist, you can get a Metal Zone for $30 to $50. They're usually about $50. And people constantly making comments that it sounds like a washing machine full of car accidents, garbage can of empty angry bees, hornet nest, all these different things. And then they come out with a $400 version of it, and everyone can't stop saying how great it is, even though it's probably the same circuit. The EQ is expanded. I don't see how that could change what it really is. So the fact of the matter is, it has a cab sim on it, and I'm sure people plugged it into the wrong jack and then plugged it into their modeling amp, their Line 6 Spider, that has a speaker that is fit for an alarm clock. So typically, if I join one of these groups, I will say something, or someone will. One time, a guy came in and said, "Hey, look, I've got a computer and I've got a guitar, and I want to mate those together and get killer tone, but I don't know where to start." So I started writing out all of his options to get a cheap interface, and then cheap or free software options, and how to set that up. Okay, which is an incredible amount of information. It took me hours to type all this up, and I had done an initial post and done a few more. And the whole time I was doing that, people were attacking me, and they were saying, tube amp is better, my tube amp, my Les Paul, my this through that, only one cable, it's purist, and that's the only way to go. And I mean, the guy was just legitimately asking for help on modeling. He wasn't saying, is this digital better than a tube amp? But people couldn't help themselves. They just immediately, they see someone saying something positive about anything except a tube amp, and they just go nuts. It'll always be better. It's the best. It's the best way to do it. Well, I live in an apartment, okay? And to get that type of tone that we're talking about on these old albums, you have to turn up the volume on, like a Marshall 100-watt blues breaker with 4 10-inch speakers, turning every knob all the way up, and then a booster pedal in front of it to turn that up to get it to distort. So we're talking the preamp, the preamp tubes are glowing hot, they're maxed out, they're distorting. The power amp section, the EL84, 6L6s, whatever's in that thing, they're glowing red hot, maxed out, and distorting completely. And then even the speaker, the 4 giant speakers, are completely clipping out and distorting to get that tone. And I cannot do that. I can't have a jet engine, a 747, in my apartment, because I'll do one windmill on the thing, and every other tenant in the building will call 911 or the landlord. So there are some of us who have had all of that stuff, and I still have tube amps. I have both. I pick whatever tool is right for the job, whether that means recording, playing at a remote location, or everything in between. So for me, that means utilizing a lot of modeling properly. Now, number one, with a modeler, you cannot use the presets. You're going to have to learn how to program it, and it's going to take you some time. This is why when you buy one, you want to make sure that it has a software app where you can plug in a USB and make your own patches using a mouse. That's the best way to do it, trust me. And then you can save that stuff, so if the memory gets erased or the internal battery dies, you'll have a backup. And that process should take you anywhere between a couple of hours and a couple of weeks. My experience with the Zoom G1, the models on there, they're incredible. I have the G3, it's the same models. But I spent weeks on that, getting that right. I have 100 patches on each machine, and then some custom patches that I've done. So it's a lot of work, but believe me, when you're done, it's worth it. You can't go in and buy something like this complicated device from the showroom. What they have set up for the showroom, the stock, what it's going to have when you change the settings on it, all those settings have all the effects turned way up. So when you go to try it out, it sounds like the most tripped out, amazing thing you've ever heard with all these effects. It sounds like a mastered album, or it'll be ridiculous. It'll have too much. Roland and Boss were notorious for doing that, all in those Strat chorus patches that they had on their stuff back then. There's this And then the other thing is, if you're buying one of those things, you go into Guitar Center and tell them, yeah, I want to try something different that has everything in one. And they'll just sell you this thing. It's incredibly expensive. And then you get home and you try to plug it in, and it sounds like crap. Well, yeah, what are you plugging it into? Are you plugging it into headphones or a full range, like monitors, like studio monitors? Because that's what you're supposed to do. They sell these full range powered speaker cabinets that are for those type of setups. Because, see, inside one of those things, it has a fake amp and a fake cabinet, speaker cabinet model, to make it sound like it's coming through an amp and a cabinet. So if you run that into an amp and a cabinet, it's going to sound like crap because you're doubling up on those timbers. You get what I'm saying? It's made, there's certain ways for you to go in there and change what it goes into. Like it'll have, that you're playing it into an amp or you're playing it into a PA, but that really isn't going to be enough, okay? Trust me, the way to get around that is you shut off the amp and cabinet simulation for the output that goes to the amp. And the really good ones have another set of outputs to go to the PA. So you leave the amp and cabinet modeling on those outputs, but the output that is going to your amplifier, your giant tube amp or whatever, if it sounds like crap, it's probably not a tube amp, it's probably a modeling amp, like a Line 6 Spider. So a lot of that misconceptions of it sounds like crap comes from people buying stuff and not even cracking the manual and having the patience to figure out what's going on. That you need to shut that part of it off, and then it'll sound like what it was designed to sound for. So for me, being like, this is what I do and I love talking about it. I can't talk about anything I do because I get gangbanged every time I open my mouth. Tom Cram sent me this invitation to join this Fuzztopia place, which I had been a member at before and just been attacked and gangbanged. Today I went in there to see, here's the post that's on the top. So, I've seen some people saying it's not possible to recreate the original Big Muff sound. And it's all people saying, yep, can't get it, they're all gone, give up, get your crack copy of Fruity Loops and start making beats, you're a producer now. Here's a guy, Rob McCracken. I can actually give you a real answer. Get an electrical engineering degree, then you can build your own gear. Not garage-made junk, but real guitar effects modified any way you want. I know because I build all my own stuff and I'm an electrical engineer and guitarist. And he's got a thumbs up, but it's not his own thumbs up, which is usually what you'll find is a thumbs up, and when you hover over that, it's the same person thumbing up themselves. Yeah, Rich McCracken. I wrote, all of the good gear is gone. It's all digital now. You can't get good tone unless you spend trillions of dollars. Give up and switch to rap hop. This is the typical online BS that I see and constantly make me see red. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. So, in any other group that you go, you're going to see some post. There was one here, but they deleted it. It was, something about tube amp versus solid state, where tube amp is the only, like, is there any way I could possibly get a decent tone with any other amp unless it's not a tube amp? So he probably had a Line 6 Spider modeling amp, and he plugged in some other modeling device that had cabin amp sim, and he's like, why doesn't it sound good? You know, because I mean, there is a thing about that amp in the room sound, and the only way to get that is to, you know, use, like what I was saying, jet plane volume. And to compromise, what you're going to end up with is sound like a mastered album, and that works well enough for me. So, get yourself some Superlux HD 330 headphones. They're $35. They're incredibly flat, semi-open ear, large diaphragm. They're 40 millimeter diameter, or is it 50? They're huge diaphragms. They're real comfortable, big headphones that will fit on a small noggin or a big noggin. They've got a real long cable, and then try that on your, before you sell your multi-effector. Try it with just some straight headphones, and then work your way towards a clean amp and a full range speaker setup to play that through, and you'll thank me. Or shut the amp and cab modeling off and try it through your whatever rig you've got, because you can't have both. That's a big part of the reason that these people are going to come in and make these statements. And see, well, for every time you get a guy to go on and on about a tube amp, everyone else that's never played through one is going to go, yeah, tube amp, yeah, because they know whatever they set up it doesn't sound anything like the Led Zeppelin album. And I got news for you, you're not gonna. No one is going to sound like the Led Zeppelin album, except for Jimmy Page. You know, so we've got to have an honest approach, and we've got to realize what you're up against if you're trying to do this. You're up against guys. You're an industry that is designed to cheat to you and lie to you and keep selling you stuff and making more and more money off of it. So people like me that are here to tell you how to use it properly are not your enemy. I'm your friend. I've spent all of my spare time, my entire life, working on this stuff to get it to sound good. So go over, check out the link in the description. Minor Technical Difficulties, my album. If you think I'm just some a-hole who's running his mouth, take a listen to that entire album and then make some comments. Let me know about how digital it sounded, because that's all using the first generation 20-year-old old stuff that I used on that. It was actually, I think the VG8 came out in like 96. So, yeah, 22-year-old modeler on that album. And it sounds really, really good. It sounds incredible. So, don't make any excuses for yourself. If it doesn't sound right, you're doing something wrong. You need to figure out, did you ever read the manual and go and custom program it? Because if you're just using the stock patches, it's gonna sound like crap. So let's stop spreading disinformation. If you're typing and you're about to slag something off online or make a comment about something you've never tried, think about it. What are you commenting on, and what are you about to do? Because that stuff goes out and it has effects on what other people think and their perception and the choices and decisions they make. So if you've never tried a pedal, you don't deserve to talk about it. I'm sorry. If you think that it's funny to mock a Digitech grunge pedal because of the name, but you never played through one, you don't deserve to mock the Digitech grunge. Just like the Metal Zone or anything else. You have to have kind of had it in your possession for a while and worked with it. Because I got news for you. Anything can get made to sound pretty good. And over the past, like, 20 years in this business, they're not really selling much junk. And if you're going to spend $9.99 on a roadkill distortion, you deserve it. You deserve it. Save that $9.99 and keep saving it till you can afford to get a $40 dirt box, something decent used off of Craigslist, or start reading about the cheap Moore ones. Like what's the clone, the Moore or the whatever those companies are that make the mini copies from Japan. What's their rat? And get yourself a rat. You can't go wrong buying a rat distortion pedal. Okay, you simply just cannot go wrong with a rat. And even if they're using SMT, and it's not, because none of that matters. None of that stuff matters. Everyone wants to quibble about what's inside of it. Does it have any magic components? That's all hooey. It's all hokum. It's all crap. Any circuit can be made to sound reasonably good, if not excellent, through just a little proper take time to set it up and use it properly. Because they're not selling junk anymore. I was around, when I was a kid, when I was 15. Well, no, I think I was 16 when that happened. And I got a huge box of old Electro-Harmonics and other junker pedals dropped off at my door. And those things were loud. They made a lot of noise, a lot of interference, and boy, did they suck your tone. People talk about tone-sucking pedals. You have no idea about these, how bad they were. They're like actively, that was like, you'd think it was like a feature. Like, this is going to cut half of your output. So, a guy like me, I'm not saying I'm elitist or I'm good or I'm special because I put up with all that crap. I figured that out on my own. Like, wow, that whole tone suck thing and plugging just the cable going right in the amp. And wow, all my signal is back. Like, I went through that process my own as a 16-year-old. I figured all that out. Okay? So, I'm not saying that there isn't bad gear. There is. Okay? But really, it's not anymore. The stuff that they're making now is awesome. And you should be able to do really well with it if you use it properly. And that means that we can never use the factory presets. We have to do a little experimenting on our own and fiddle around with it to figure out where it's really going to shine. So it's an amazing time to be alive and to be in this hobby of making music. You should be just ecstatic at where we're at technology-wise, and for people to keep jonesing and like, oh, we're never going to be able to do it really good because all the tube amps are gone, all the big muffs that they sell aren't the same. No, okay? If that's what's hanging you up, a poor workman blames his tools. You need to lock yourself in your room for a couple of years and don't come out till you can play. And once you can play, you're going to realize that worrying about your tone is the least of your problems. Okay? Unless you can play halfway decent. Covering, pretending, and trying to mimic all that whole way to, like, I'm going to be in the bar playing, my White Snake song or whatever stupid song you think that you're going to get chicks from. Write your own music. Please, I'm begging you, just try that once. I don't care how simple it is. It's an infinite better waste of your time to write a song, even if it's EAB. There, I just gave you one. There's a song. Do that before you learn your next Motley Crue or stupid Metallica song. Whatever crap off the Black Album B-side you're going to, So, these are the types of things we should be worried about. Is, how do I write a good pop song with a chorus and a bridge? How do I work that bridge in there? Then, the difference between a tube amp and a solid state amp. Because the guys that wrote all this stuff, they weren't jerking themselves off in the corner about their gear. They weren't going and returning stuff at Guitar Center, complaining on forums and attacking the other guy. They were busy practicing their guitar and writing music. So, I got that off my chest. Tom Cram, thank you for inviting me to Fuzztopia. When I first went in there, I made a post. I said, I'm a closed-minded guitar player who has never written a song. I play in a bar band, a cover band, and I have all tube tone, analog signal path with my Les Paul, with just a cable, and I've never written a song in my life, and I'm better than you. And so, like, you wouldn't believe it. It went right to the top. It was ding, 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 ding. Everyone was like, look at this guy, like, whoa, and like, I'm like, yeah, see? And then they were like, get out of here. I'm like, why? Because I beat all of you at your own game? I posted exactly the truth, you know? So I left, and then it was like, I met somebody, became friends. I know that sounded romantic. I met this guy who, this is sounding really, the dude is a person I look up to. He's like a hacker, guitar guy, music guy, I should say. And I wanted to help promote a video he did about DIY Dumble. And I'm like, you know what, if I went back to that, I could probably get him a couple views. So I had to go back and join that Phallustopia, and that's why I'm still there. I was hoping that I wouldn't be seeing posts about tube versus solid state, and I did. There was one of those tube versus solid state posts, and it was all of these people saying the same thing, and then a couple people would say, use whatever sound good to your ear, and they would duck and get out of there. You know, and one guy was like, I've used both, and then he got out of there because he didn't want to get attacked. And then I made some statement, tube, it's all tube, you'll die if you use anything else. And then they were all like, oh, look at this guy. And it's like, well, yeah, look at this guy, because that's what I'm trying to get you to do, is look at yourself. Look at how you're lying about how you made all these jokes about the Metal Zone, and then when the Wazacraft one came out, you put a big picture of it because it's got a stupid Japanese chrome logo on the foot switch. Like, how dumb is this community? Could it get any dumber? This just makes me sick. I'm sorry, but it does. We got a long way to go, online guitar community, and I'll be here. I'm not going to be commenting in the forum. I'll just be quietly releasing an album of instrumental music, you know, here and there. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you. I know you don't care. But it's good enough for me. And I'm going to continue my projects and my work in this most wonderful endeavor because I appreciate the time where we're at. It's awesome. It's awesome. I found a whole bag full of Arduino stuff. Arduino Uno version 3 Wi-Fi shield. There's 4 shields and a bunch of connectors and switches for that battery pack for $6 for that at a resale store. So I'm going to be eventually, I'll probably build something with that. But what an incredibly great time that we live in, where we have all these online forums with schematics and people helping other people, and then so for me to focus on the negative end of it, of these misinformed people that have the wrong attitude about technology. But I find most often, if I do share where I'm at and what I'm doing, I get people coming in trying to minimize my work, saying, you're doing that? My tube amp is better. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure it is, but I don't have a credit card. I don't have any credit card debt. I can sleep at night. You know, whatever fancy car that you have that you're making payments on with your fancy tube amp, going to the stupid bar where people shoot pool and ignore the band and playing your girls cover where there's not a single girl in the bar. Have fun with that and good luck with that, pal. I'll be here releasing an album of instrumental guitar music and continuing to build the tools to do so. So, you can choose to look at it, the glass is half empty, but the glass is half full. And I'm not so much concerned about all analog tube tone. That's been there, done that, you know. And it's heavy, it's incredibly non-efficient. Look into Class D. Look into the efficiency rating on an old tube amp. What is it? 30%? 35%? So 65% of your energy is turned into heat and just cooks the cabinet and the housing of the components and the board. Whereas something like a Class D amp is, 86 to 93% efficient. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. So, all right, guys, enough ranting for today. I can't apologize for who I am and what I do. I'm Petey Twofinger. Peace.